Sudan. And what happens when a whole city is surrounded for more than a year? Food runs out, hospitals stop working, and no one can leave. And then one night the gates fall and the killers come. This is not a story from the past. It's happening right now, in Sudan, in a city called Fasher. In this video, you'll learn how an old war turned into a new genocide, who is behind it, why the world is silent, and what it means for millions of people trapped inside. Stay till the end, because what happened here could change the future of all Africa. 1. A land with a painful past in the heart of Africa lies Sudan, a country full of deserts, gold, and long rivers. But for decades, this land has also been full of war. To understand today's tragedy, we need to go back to the early 2000s. At that time, terrible conflict broke out in a region called Darfur. The government sent a militia group called the Janjaweed to fight rebel groups. The Janjaweed were mostly Arab fighters riding horses and trucks. They attacked African villages, burned homes, and killed thousands of people. The world called it genocide. Many people thought peace would come after that war ended, but the seeds of hate remained. And from those same Janjaweed fighters came a new, powerful force, the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. 2. Rise of the RSF. The RSF began as a small militia. Later, the Sudanese government gave it uniforms, money, and heavy weapons. Its leader was a man named Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hemeti. Hemeti came from a poor camel trading family, but he became one of the richest and most feared men in Sudan. His group controlled gold mines, smuggled gold abroad, and built strong ties with countries like the United Arab Emirates. By 2019, after large street protests, Sudan's longtime ruler Omar al-Bashir was removed. People hoped for democracy, but power soon fell again into the hands of the army and the RSF. Both wanted control. Both carried guns. And soon, both turned on each other. The war begins. In April 2023, Sudan's two strongest forces, the Sudanese army, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and the RSF, led by Hemeti, started fighting. They claimed they were saving Sudan, but their war destroyed it. The capital, Khartoum, became a battlefield. Airstrikes hit homes. People ran out of food. Hospitals closed. Children were trapped in houses as bullets flew outside. Since then, over 14 million people have fled their homes. The United Nations says at least 40,000 people have been killed, and many more are missing. And while the world watches, Sudan continues to burn. Why Fasher matters in all this chaos? One city became the heart of the fight. Fasher, the capital of North Darfur. It was one of the few big cities the RSF couldn't capture at first. For more than 18 months, they surrounded it, cutting off roads, food, and medicine. Inside the city lived hundreds of thousands of civilians, including people who had already fled from other parts of Darfur. They thought Fasher was safe. They thought the army would protect them. The army was weak, and the RSF was getting stronger. Every day, shells landed closer. People ate leaves to survive. Doctors performed surgeries without electricity. The siege breaks by October 2025. The siege reached its breaking point. The RSF launched a massive assault. Explosions echoed through the night. The main hospital, South Hospital, was hit again and again. The army fought for days, but had no supplies left. On October 26, they began to withdraw. That night, RSF fighters flooded into the city. Witnesses said it felt like the end of the world. Six killings began as soon as the RSF entered Fasher. They went house to house. Men were pulled out and shot. Whole families were killed. They targeted people from certain tribes, especially the Massacre and Fur. Women were attacked in terrible ways. A government minister said that in the first 2 days alone, 300 women were killed and many were raped. The Yale Humanitarian Research Lab studied satellite pictures. They found dark red patches near hospitals, believed to be blood-stained ground or mass graves. Even Arab countries that usually stay quiet, like Saudi Arabia and Egypt, condemned the RSF for horrific violations. The United Nations called for an international investigation. 7. Voices from the city. One survivor named Aisha said, "They came at night, said they were looking for soldiers. They shot my husband. Then they burned our house." Another man said, "If you ran, they shot you. If you stayed, they killed you." Videos posted online showed smoke rising from whole neighborhoods. You could hear people screaming and praying. It looked like the same horrors Darfur saw 20 years ago, now happening again. Journalists couldn't enter the city, so the world learned the truth from satellite images, refugees, and short phone calls made before networks went dark. Hospitals under fire. The World Health Organization said more than 460 people were killed in a single hospital area. Doctors tried to save lives using flashlights and bare hands. They ran out of bandages, blood, and pain medicine. One nurse said, "We had no electricity, no food." The injured were lying on the floor. Outside, they were shooting anyone who moved. By the end of the week, nearly every hospital in Fasher stopped working. Bodies stayed on the streets because no one dared to bury them. The smell of death filled the air. The fall of Fasher. By early November 2025, Fasher was gone. The RSF took full control. The army fled east. The city became silent, a ghost town filled with ashes. Satellite photos showed entire districts burned to the ground, shops destroyed, schools gone, thousands missing. A UN official said, "This is not just a battle. There are several reasons. First, power. Fasher was the last major city in Darfur, not under RSF control. Capturing it meant full control of Western Sudan. Second, money. Darfur is rich in gold. Hemedi and his family already control many gold mines. But the more land they take, the richer they get. Third, revenge and fear. The RSF accused locals of helping the army, so they punished everyone. Some reports say the UAE helped the RSF by sending drones and weapons. The UAE denies it, but experts found that new drones used by the RSF match ones from UAE shipments. In short, it was a mix of greed, hatred, and the hunger for power. But for the people of Fasher, these reasons don't matter. They only know pain. 11. How the world reacted. When the killings were confirmed, the world spoke up, but only in words. The Arab League called it a horrific massacre. The UN warned that the violence could be a war crime. Human rights groups said Fasher looked like Darfur all over again. But speeches don't stop bullets. While world leaders argued, people inside Sudan starved. Food trucks were blocked. Water was dirty. Children died from hunger, not just from bombs. The UN World Food Program says Sudan now faces the largest hunger crisis on Earth. The human cost behind every number. There's a story, a mother searching for her child, a father digging a grave, a child crying in a refugee camp. 14 million people displaced. That's more than the population of entire countries. Refugee camps overflow. People sleep in the open. There's little food and almost no medicine. Diseases spread fast. A man named Khalid who escaped said, "I lost everything, my house, my family, my city. I don't know if I will ever go back." 13. The new kind of war. This war is fought not only with guns, but also with information. The RSF and army both post videos online to show their side. The internet often goes down, so people can't ask for help. That's why satellites and social media play a huge role. Even when journalists can't enter, pictures from the sky show the truth. Burned houses, destroyed hospitals, empty towns. Technology shows the pain, but it can't stop it. The world can see, but seeing is not the same as saving. 14. The meaning of Fasher. Fasher used to be a symbol of hope. Now it's a warning. It shows how fast a city can fall when the world looks away. With Fasher gone, the RSF controls almost all of Darfur. The Sudanese army holds the east. The country is divided not just by land, but by hatred. Some fear Sudan could break apart completely. Others believe this is only the beginning of more chaos. 15. What's next? Peace talks have failed again and again. Both the RSF and the army want to rule. Neither side will stop fighting. And in the middle, millions of innocent people wait. They wait for food. They wait for safety. They wait for the world to care. As one woman said after losing her family, "We don't need promises, just need peace." This was part 1, the fall of Fasher. In part 2, we'll go deeper. How foreign powers fuel this war. How it spreads to other countries. And what the future might hold for Sudan's people. Don't miss it, because what happens next could decide if Sudan ever finds peace again. If you thought the story of Fasher ended when the city fell, you're wrong. What came next was even darker. Because this is not just a war between two generals. It's a war paid for, fed, and protected by powerful nations far from Sudan's deserts. And while the world argues millions of Sudanese people are being forgotten, a broken country. After the fall of Fasher, Sudan is now a land cut in two. In the east, the Sudanese army still holds cities like Port Sudan. In the west, the RSF controls most of Darfur. There's no real government anymore. There's no electricity in many towns. Banks don't work. Schools are closed. Hospitals have no medicine. Families live in broken houses, waiting for help that never comes. The country that once dreamed of democracy in 2019 now lives in fear again. 2. The two men who destroyed a nation at the center of this war are two men, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hemedti. Burhan leads the Sudanese Armed Forces SAF, the regular army. He believes only the military can protect Sudan's unity. Hemedti leads the Rapid Support Forces RSF, a paramilitary group born from the old Janjaweed militias. He says he's fighting for change and freedom. But his men are accused of massacres, looting, and rape. Both men were once allies. Together they removed dictator Omar al-Bashir in 2019. But after that, they both wanted to rule. They shook hands in front of cameras, but behind the scenes, they prepared for war. And when the fighting began in 2023, it didn't stop. 3. The foreign hands behind the wars like this don't last without money and weapons. And in Sudan, both come from outside. Let's start with the RSF. They are funded through gold smuggling, much of it going to the United Arab Emirates, UAE. Experts and reports say RSF gold is flown from Sudan to Dubai, then sold legally in markets. This gold money is used to buy weapons, drones, and fuel. The RSF also gets support from Russia's Wagner Group, which helps with logistics and weapons. Some sources say RSF fighters trained with Wagner mercenaries in Libya before attacking Sudan. The Sudanese army, on the other hand, has backing from Egypt. Egypt fears the RSF because it wants a united Sudan run by a strong army. Some reports also mention help from Iran, which has supplied drones to the Sudanese military. So what we see in Sudan is not just a civil war, it's a proxy war, where foreign powers fight their own battles through local soldiers. 4. The hidden war for gold. Sudan has some of the largest gold reserves in Africa. Control of these mines means power. Hemedti's family runs several mining companies, especially in Darfur. Every ton of gold taken out means more weapons for the RSF, in fact. In one leaked report, the UN said over 32 tons of gold were smuggled from Sudan to Dubai in a single year, worth billions of dollars. So while ordinary Sudanese people starve, powerful men grow richer. Gold, not peace, fuels this war. 5. How people survive amid all this. How do people live?
How many?
Many families walk hundreds of kilometers to escape the fighting. They cross deserts with no water. Mothers carry babies under the hot sun. Old people are left behind because they can't walk anymore. In refugee camps in Chad, South Sudan, and Egypt, life is not much better. There's not enough food or clean water. Diseases spread fast: cholera, malaria, and measles. Children draw pictures of bombs and soldiers. They don't remember peace. They only remember running. 6. The world's silence, the most painful part of Sudan's war, is not just the killing, it says the silence. Unlike Ukraine or Gaza, Sudan gets little media attention. There are few reporters on the ground. Foreign governments talk, but do little. When Fasher fell, The United Nations held meetings and gave statements,
Oh.
but they didn't send peacekeepers.
Oh.
No one stopped the RSF from entering the city. Why? Because powerful countries have other interests. Some want Sudan's gold. Some want control of the Red Sea coast. Others just don't want to anger the UAE, a key player in global trade. So, while millions of Sudanese people cry for help, the world looks away. 7. Stories from the shadows. Let's go back to the people. There's Omar, a teacher from Khartoum. He said his school was turned into a military base. When the army left, the RSF came in. He walked for 5 days with his wife and 3 children to reach safety. But his youngest son died of dehydration on the way. There's Hassan, a doctor in Darfur. He said, "We had no medicine. People died not because of bullets, but because we couldn't treat them." And Sarah, 15-year-old girl from Fasher, said in a video message, "I want to go to school. I want my city back. I want people to stop killing each other." Her message went viral online. Thousands shared it, but soon after, internet service in her area went down. Nobody knows where she is now. A disaster for the whole region. Sudan's war doesn't just affect Sudan, spreading across borders. In Chad, over 1 million refugees have arrived. In South Sudan, fighting near the border has disrupted trade and food supply. In Ethiopia, tensions are growing because of the conflict's effect on migration. If the war continues, experts warn that it could destabilize the entire Horn of Africa, a region already hit by drought, poverty, and hunger. 9. The forgotten famine war kills, but hunger kills more. In many parts of Sudan, especially Darfur, people haven't eaten properly for months. Markets are empty. Trucks carrying food are stopped by militias or stolen. The UN World Food Program says that more than 25 million people, that half of Sudan's population DNT, have enough to eat. Mothers boil tree leaves to feed their children. Children faint in class from hunger. Some eat mud mixed with water. One aid worker said, "I've been to many war zones, but I've never seen hunger like this." 10. Why no one can help, you may ask. Why can't the world send food or peacekeepers? The answer is, it's too dangerous. Aid trucks are attacked. Convoys are robbed. Even unworkers have been kidnapped. In some areas, RSF fighters take the food and sell it on the black market. In others, the army blocks the roads to stop supplies from reaching the RSF, so people are trapped, starving in the middle of a war they didn't start. 11. The battle for information because journalists can't go in. Both sides try to control the story. The RSF posts videos online showing their fighters giving food to civilians to look like heroes. The army posts clips of airstrikes to look strong. But satellite images tell the truth. Burned villages, destroyed hospitals, mass graves. Some activists use small solar-powered phones to send photos to journalists abroad. They risk their lives to tell the world what's really happening. One of them said, "If we stay silent, no one will know. And if no one knows, we all die quietly." 12. The world reacts too late after months of silence. Even Arab countries began to speak. The Arab League, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar all condemned the RSF for killing civilians in Fasher. They said the violence was beyond humanity. But the RSF didn't stop. They know no one will punish them. The United States and European Union have also condemned the attacks, but they haven't taken real action. No sanctions strong enough to stop the flow of money or gold. Meanwhile, humanitarian groups keep begging for attention. They say Sudan could become the world's largest graveyard if nothing changes. 13. How it all could end. What happens next in Sudan depends on 3 things: peace, pressure, or collapse. Peace. There are still small peace talks happening in countries like Saudi Arabia and South Sudan, but both sides refuse to compromise. Pressure. If countries like the UAE, Egypt, and Russia stop supporting the warring sides, the fighting might slow down. Collapse. If the war continues, Sudan could split into smaller states, ruled by warlords just like Libya or Somalia. Many Sudanese fear that last option, a country broken forever. 14. The voices of hope, but even in the middle of darkness, there are people who still believe in peace. In Port Sudan, young volunteers teach displaced children how to read. In Chad's refugee camps, doctors from Sudan work day and night with no pay. Musicians write songs of hope, using drums made from plastic buckets. One popular song goes, "We are still alive. The sky is still blue. Our land will rise again." These voices are small, but powerful. They remind the world that Sudan is not just a war, it's a home. 15. What the world must learn. Sudan's tragedy teaches us something important. Wars don't always start with bombs. Sometimes they start with greed, hate, and silence. The Janjaweed attacks in 2003 were a warning. The world said never again. But here we are, 20 years later, watching the same horror. If no one acts now, Sudan's story could repeat in other countries too. Because when the world allows one genocide, it opens the door for the next. 16. The message from Sudan before internet lines went down. A Sudanese activist recorded one final message. Don't just pray for us. Talk about us. Tell people what's happening. Because silence kills faster than bullets. Those words became a slogan for many online campaigns. Hashtag remembers Sudan. Hashtag stop the war. Hashtag LFASHER massacre. Every share, every post, every video helps people remember that the people of Sudan are still alive, still fighting to be heard. 17. The final reflection when you think of Sudan now, don't just think of war. Think of the families who still cook together using tiny fires. Think of the children who smile even after losing everything. Think of the doctors who work with no medicine, only courage, because they are the real heroes. Fasher may have fallen, but the story of Sudan is not over. It's written every day in the dust, in the tears, and in the hope of its people. If the world listens, Sudan can rise again. If the world stays silent, another nation will die in darkness. You've been watching The City That Fell Part 2, The World's Silent War. If you care about humanity, share this story. Sometimes telling the truth is the only way to fight.